This is a catastrophe. Did you have the janitor make this dish? It tastes awful." The words land like shards of ice in the steam-filled silent kitchen. Mila Laurent, CEO of Laurent Gastronomy Group at 29, pushes the porcelain plate away. The dish, a delicate construction of pan-seared scallops with a saffron foam, wobbles and collapses. It looks like a shipwreck. It tastes like failure. Her senior staff flinches. The sous chef, Antoine, a man with 20 years of experience, looks like he might cry. His hands, usually so steady, tremble by his sides. "Madame Laurent, he starts, his voice cracking. "Don't!" Mila cuts him off. Her voice is low, dangerously calm. "Don't say you tried your best. Your best isn't worth $50 million. Your best isn't getting me a foothold in Paris." She gestures at the plate. "My best is in a hospital bed with a broken leg. This is an insult." Preston Hayes, the restaurant's general manager, steps forward, his smile as smooth and empty as the polished marble floors. "Mila, let's just take a breath. The investor's plane was delayed. We have a little time. We can try again." "With what, Preston?" Mila snaps, her eyes flashing. "With him?" She points at Antoine, who shrinks back. "The magic is gone. The balance, the soul of the dish. It's not there. Chef Dubois could do it in his sleep. Antoine just proved he can't do it while wide awake. The investors are here to taste genius, not competence." In the far corner of the kitchen, by the service entrance, a bucket rattles. No one notices. Caleb March straightens up, his grip tight on the handle of his mop. He is a ghost in a gray uniform, a man paid to erase the day's messes. He has mopped this floor every night for 3 years, his presence as unremarkable as the hum of the industrial freezers. He heard her. Every word. "Did you have the janitor make this dish?" The insult doesn't sting. It lands with a dull, familiar thud. It's the same tone the doctors use when they talk about experimental treatments for his daughter, Lyra. The same tone the bank used when they foreclosed on his old life. It's the sound of dismissal, the sound of being unseen. Mila turns on her heel, her tailored blazer sharp enough to cut glass. "It's over. I'm calling them. I'll tell them there's been a family emergency. It's better to postpone than to serve them." That. Preston follows her out of the kitchen, already composing apologies on his phone. The defeated kitchen staff begins to disperse, the clatter of their retreat echoing their failure. Antoine stares at the ruined dish, his face ashen. He slowly scrapes it into the bin, the sound a final, mournful admission of defeat. The kitchen, a humming hive of activity just 10 minutes ago, falls silent. It smells of burnt hopes and expensive saffron. Caleb stands in the doorway, watching the last cook leave. He looks at the clock on the wall. 5:45 p.m. The investors were scheduled for 7 o'clock. With the delay, they might arrive around 7:30. He has a little over an hour. His phone buzzes in his pocket. A text from Lyra's nurse. "She's asking for you. Not a good day." His chest tightens. Another bill he can't pay. Another treatment that isn't working. Another night he has to spend here, in the land of unattainable luxury, while his daughter fights a battle in a sterile hospital room. He looks around the empty kitchen, the gleaming stainless steel counters, the rows of perfectly sharpened knives, the copper pots hanging like a symphony waiting for a conductor. For 3 years he has cleaned this space. For 3 years, he has watched. He knows every station, every secret. He knows Chef Dubois' rhythm, the way he adds a pinch of salt, not by measurement, but by feel. He knows the specific temperature of the pan needed to get that perfect, paper-thin crust on a scallop. He knows it not because he was taught, but because he never stopped being a student. "Did you have the janitor make this dish?" A strange calm settles over him. It's the calm of a man with nothing left to lose. He sets his mop and bucket aside, the plastic clattering softly against the tile. He walks over to the hand-washing station, the water running hot over his calloused knuckles. He scrubs his hands for a full minute, methodical, precise. He pulls on a pair of disposable gloves. He turns to the walk-in refrigerator, the cool air washing over his face. He sees the tray of fresh, plump scallops, flown in from Japan this morning. He sees the delicate saffron threads, worth more than their weight in gold. He sees every element waiting for a hand that understands. His hands don't tremble. His breath is steady. In the quiet hum of the empty kitchen, the ghost in the gray uniform vanishes. A chef takes his place. Mila's office feels like a cage, a very expensive minimalist cage with a floor-to-ceiling window overlooking the glittering city. She paces in front of the glass, her phone clutched in her hand like a weapon. The contact is on the screen. Jean-Luc Dubois. Not her chef, but the lead investor, a man who respects only perfection. Preston Hayes stands by the door, wringing his hands. Perhaps we can offer them something else? A classic from the menu? The truffle risotto is always... No, Mila says, not turning around. They aren't here for risotto, Preston. They are here to see if I have vision, if I can create something new, something that honors French tradition while pushing it forward. That scallop dish was the entire story on a plate. Without it, I have nothing. She stops pacing and looks at her phone. Her thumb hovers over the call button. Defeat tastes bitter. It tastes like Antoine's awful saffron foam. She closes her eyes, a flash of her father's disappointed face appearing in the darkness. He had told her she wasn't ready to take over the company. She was too young, too impulsive. Tonight was supposed to prove him wrong. Downstairs, the kitchen is no longer silent. It's filled with a quiet, focused energy. Caleb moves with a dancer's grace, a stark contrast to his usual slow, shuffling gait. He pulls out a heavy-bottomed sauté pan, the copper glinting under the harsh fluorescent lights. He places it on the stove, the gas hissing to life with a soft whoosh. A splash of clarified butter hits the hot surface, sizzling instantly. He works from memory, his hands moving with an unthinking certainty. He pats the large scallops dry, seasons them with a whisper of sea salt and white pepper. He lays them in the pan, one by one, in a perfect clockwise circle. He doesn't poke or prod them. He listens. He knows the exact moment to flip them from the sound of the sizzle, a subtle shift in pitch that signals a perfect, caramelized crust. While the scallops sear, he moves to another station. He pulls out a blender. Saffron, a touch of white wine, a single drop of fish stock. He reduces himself in a tiny saucepan. He works with an economy of motion that is mesmerizing. No wasted steps, no hesitation. He's not just cooking, he's communing with the ingredients. He remembers his wife teaching him that. Food knows when you're angry at it, she used to say. You have to coax it. He plates with the precision of a surgeon, a swipe of bright green dill-infused oil on the stark white plate. He arranges the 3 scallops in a tight, elegant triangle. He tastes the saffron foam, his eyes closing for a fraction of a second. It's right. It's balanced. He uses a small spoon to place a dollop, a cloud of vibrant orange, next to the scallops. He finishes it with the one thing Antoine missed, the element Chef Dubois himself had been so excited about, a single, delicate, edible borage flower. Its tiny, star-like shape a perfect periwinkle blue against the orange. The dish isn't just cooked. It's composed. He looks at his creation. It's perfect. He picks up the plate. His heart hammers against his ribs. The hardest part isn't the cooking. It's what comes next. He walks out of the kitchen, the plate held steady in his hand. The hushed, carpeted hallway of the executive suites feels like a foreign country. He can hear Mila's sharp voice from behind her office door. He doesn't knock. He just opens the door and walks in. Preston spins around, his face a mask of shock and outrage. "What do you think you're doing? You can't be in here. This is a private." Caleb doesn't even look at him. His eyes are fixed on Mila. She has turned from the window, her face pale with stress, her finger finally pressing the button to make the call. She sees him, then the plate. Her eyes narrow. "What is this?" she demands, her voice laced with exhausted fury. Caleb walks past the sputtering Preston and places the plate on the polished mahogany of her desk. The scent of perfectly seared scallops and saffron fills the small space. It smells like victory. He meets her gaze, his voice calm and steady, with a weight she has never heard before. "Madame Laurent, you asked for the dish prepared by the janitor. Here it is." Silence. The only sound in the room is the faint hum of the city outside and the sputtering of Preston Hayes. Mila Laurent doesn't move. Her eyes are locked on the plate. It's a perfect composition. The sear on the scallops is a flawless, even mahogany. The saffron foam is light, airy, holding its shape. The single blue borage flower is a stroke of artistic genius, a splash of rebellious color that brings the entire dish to life. "Get him out of here," Preston finally chokes out, gesturing wildly at Caleb. "Security! Someone call security! This is completely unacceptable." Mila raises a hand, a small, sharp gesture that silences him instantly. She doesn't look at him. She doesn't look at Caleb. She picks up the small fork from the side of the plate. Her movements are slow, deliberate. She cuts off a tiny piece of a scallop, making sure to get a bit of the foam and the dill oil. She lifts the fork to her mouth. The world seems to stop for a second. The taste hits her palate, and her eyes, against her will, flutter closed. It's not just right. It's alive. The sweetness of the scallop, the smoky sear, the earthy saffron, the bright, clean note of the dill, and then something else. A faint, almost licorice-like whisper from the flower that ties it all together. It's a flavor combination she's never experienced. It's bold. It's brilliant. It's better than Chef Dubois' original recipe. Her eyes snap open. She stares at Caleb, really seeing him for the first time. He isn't the shuffling, invisible man from the hallways. He stands straight, his hands loosely at his sides, his expression unreadable. He looks like a man waiting for a verdict he already knows. "Who are you?" she whispers, the question filled with a genuine, unnerving sense of disbelief. Before he can answer, the intercom on her desk buzzes. Her assistant's voice, tight with panic, cuts through the room. "Madame Laurent, they're here. Mr. Dubois and his party are in the lobby." Reality crashes back in. Preston pales. "Mila, what are we going to do? We have nothing for them." Mila drops the fork. It clatters against the plate. She looks from the dish to Caleb, then back again. Her mind, trained to assess risk and reward in seconds, makes 1,000 calculations. On one side, certain humiliating failure. On the other, a janitor, a complete unknown, a ghost who cooks like a god. She stands up, her decision made. The hesitation is gone, replaced by the cold, hard certainty that has made her a CEO. "You," she says, pointing at Caleb. "Back to the kitchen. There are 4 of them. You're making this." Caleb doesn't move. He just watches her. "Did you hear me?" Mila says, her voice rising with urgency. "The investors are here. You are cooking for them. Now." Preston steps forward, aghast. "Mila, you can't be serious. He's the janitor. We don't know anything about him, his hygiene, his training." "I know that he can cook, Preston," Mila retorts, her glare silencing him again. "And right now, that's the only thing I care about." She turns back to Caleb. "Why are you still standing here? I gave you an order." "It's not that simple," Caleb says, his voice quiet but firm. It's the first time he has spoken more than a single sentence to her. "My daughter," he continues, holding her gaze. "Lyra, her medical bills, all of them, paid in full, tonight." Mila doesn't even blink. There is no negotiation in his voice. It's a statement of fact. It's the price. She looks at the plate, at the impossible perfection he created in minutes. He isn't just offering to cook. He's offering to save her, and he knows exactly what that's worth. "Done," she says without a moment's hesitation. Get it done. Go! A flicker of something, relief maybe, crosses Caleb's face. He gives a single sharp nod. He turns and walks out of the office, leaving Preston gaping like a fish. Mila smooths down her blazer, her face becoming an unreadable mask of calm confidence. She looks at Preston. Go downstairs and assist him. Give him whatever he needs. And if you get in his way, Preston, I will fire you before the appetizers hit the table. Am I clear? Preston just nods, stunned. Mila walks to the door, takes one last look at the half-eaten plate on her desk, and then exits, a practiced, welcoming smile already forming on her face as she heads towards the lobby. She is walking into the biggest meeting of her life, having just bet her entire company on a man whose name she still doesn't know. The kitchen doors swing open with a force Caleb has never used before. They bang against the stoppers. Antoine and two line cooks who were half-heartedly wiping down their stations look up, startled. They see Caleb, still in his janitor's uniform, stride towards the main prep area. They stare, confused. Then Preston Hayes rushes in behind him, his face a blotchy red. Right, he says, clapping his hands together with false energy. Change of plans. Madame Laurent has authorized a new direction. This man ... He gestures vaguely at Caleb, unable to bring himself to say his name. Will be leading the service. Antoine's jaw drops. You're joking. He's the cleaner. Caleb ignores them both. He grabs a clean apron from a hook and ties it around his waist over his uniform. He turns to the terrified sous chef. Antoine, I need you on the sauce station. Reduce a half-liter of Pinot Gris with shallots and thyme. Now. Antoine stares at him, dumbfounded. Now, Caleb repeats, his voice leaving no room for argument. For a second, the kitchen is frozen. Then Preston steps forward. See here, you have no authority to... Caleb turns to him, his eyes like chips of flint. The CIO put me in charge of this kitchen. Are you countermanding her order? He looks past Preston to Antoine. I know for a fact, Chef Dubois keeps a private stash of flash-frozen Périgord truffles in the bottom drawer of the dairy freezer for emergencies. I need them shaved, thinly. The specificity of the order, the knowledge of a secret only a handful of people knew, breaks the spell. Antoine's professional instincts take over. He gives Caleb a long, searching look, then nods once. He turns and heads for the freezer. The two line cooks, seeing their superior fall in line, look at Caleb with a newfound, nervous respect. What do you need? One of them asks. 4 tasting menus, Caleb says, his mind already racing ahead. First course is the scallop dish. I need 4 plates, warmed. After that, we do the truffle risotto. Then a palate cleanser, lemon sorbet with a mint leaf. Main course will be the duck confit. I'll handle the duck. I need one of you on garnishes. Finely chopped chives, parsley, microgreens. Go. The cooks scramble into action, the kitchen suddenly buzzing with a desperate, focused energy. Caleb is the center of the storm, a calm, commanding presence. He moves from station to station, his hands a blur, searing duck skin until it's perfectly crisp, deglazing a pan, tasting a sauce with a clean spoon and adding a single grain of salt. Preston stands by the door, useless and fuming. He watches Caleb command the staff with an ease he himself has never possessed. He sees the respect growing in their eyes. This janitor isn't just cooking, he's conducting. Humiliation burns in Preston's gut. He glances at the plating station where a small, crucial bottle of white truffle oil sits. On a petty, childish impulse, as he walks past, he palms it, slipping it into his jacket pocket. Upstairs in the main dining room, Mila laughs at a joke Jean-Luc Dubois has just made. Her smile is dazzling. Her posture is relaxed. Inside, her stomach is a knot of pure terror. She can feel the vibrations from the kitchen through the floorboards. Your restaurant is magnificent, Mila, Jean-Luc says, sipping his champagne. But the soul of any house is its kitchen. We are eager to see what your chef has in store for us. He is full of surprises tonight. Mila replies smoothly, praying it's the right kind. Back in the kitchen, it's time to plate the first course. Caleb arranges the scallops, adds the foam, the oil, the flour. "Risotto next," he calls out. "Antoine, how is the base?" "Ready?" Antoine says, his voice filled with grudging admiration. "Good. Finish it with the truffle oil," Caleb commands without looking up. A beat of silence. "Chef," a line cook says tentatively, "I can't find the truffle oil." Caleb finally looks up. He scans the station. His eyes flick to Preston, who is standing by the exit, trying to look casual. Caleb sees the slight bulge in his jacket pocket. He doesn't have time for a confrontation. His eyes dart around the kitchen, his encyclopedic knowledge of the space kicking in. 3 years of cleaning, 3 years of seeing where every last bottle and box is stored. "Forget it," Caleb says. "Bottom shelf, dry storage, behind the arboreal rice. There's a small tin of black truffle salt. Dubois' backup. Get it." The cook runs off. Preston's face tightens. He's been outmaneuvered. The risotto is finished, a sprinkle of the truffle salt adding an even more potent, earthy aroma. The first course is complete. 4 plates, 4 identical works of art. A waiter stands by, hands trembling slightly. Caleb inspects each plate, wiping a microscopic smudge from the rim of one with a clean cloth. He looks at the waiter. His voice is quiet, but it carries across the entire kitchen. "Go!" The dining room is a bubble of hushed elegance. 4 plates are placed on the table with synchronized precision. Mila holds her breath. Jean-Luc Dubois, a man whose palate could make or break a restaurant with a single word, stares down at the dish. He picks up his fork. The other 3 investors follow his lead. Silence. Mila watches Jean-Luc's face. He chews slowly, his eyes closed. A small, almost imperceptible frown appears on his forehead. Mila's heart plummets. It's over. He hates it. Then Jean-Luc's eyes open. He looks directly at Mila, and a slow, genuine smile spreads across his face. "Magnifique," he says, his voice a low rumble of pleasure. "Absolutely magnificent." Another investor, a chic woman named Isabel, nods enthusiastically. "The balance is exquisite. I have never tasted a saffron foam this ethereal. And the flour, what is it? It's a stroke of genius." "It's a dish with a secret," Mila hears herself say, finding her voice. "Our chef believes that the best flavors are the ones that surprise you." She takes a bite herself. It's even better than the one she tasted in her office. It's perfect. She looks toward the kitchen doors, her mind reeling. This isn't just a man who knows how to cook. This is an artist of the highest caliber. And for 3 years, he's been polishing her floors. The thought is so absurd, so impossible, that she almost laughs out loud. Who is he? The plates go back to the kitchen. They are not just empty, they are spotless. The waiter who brings them in is beaming. "They wipe the plates clean with their bread, chef," he says to Caleb, the title slipping out naturally. A wave of energy surges through the kitchen. The tension is gone, replaced by the electric hum of adrenaline and pride. Antoine looks at Caleb, shaking his head in disbelief. "That foam, how did you keep it so stable?" "Less gelatin," Caleb says, already focused on the next course. "You have to trust the saffron to do the work. Risotto is up. Let's go." The service becomes a blur of controlled intensity. The truffle risotto comes out, creamy and fragrant. The lemon sorbet is a sharp, clean explosion of citrus. The duck confit is the final masterpiece, the skin as crisp and delicate as stained glass, the meat tender enough to be cut with a fork. With every course, the reports from the dining room become more glowing. Preston Hayes watches from the shadows by the service door, his arms crossed, his face a mask of impotent rage. This was supposed to be a disaster. He was supposed to be the one to pick up the pieces, to prove his value to Mila. Instead, he's been made a fool of. The janitor is the hero. He needs to find a way to tear him down, There has to be something. A man with this much talent doesn't just decide to mop floors for a living. There's a story there, and where there's a story, there's usually dirt. He slips out of the kitchen unnoticed. He heads down the quiet hallway to the small, windowless HR office. He uses his manager's key card to let himself in. The room is dark, smelling of stale coffee and paper. He turns on a single desk lamp and sits down at the computer. He types in his credentials, his fingers clicking impatiently on the keyboard. He pulls up the employee database. March, Caleb. The file is thin. Start date, social security number, address in a low-income part of the city. Emergency contact, Lyra March, daughter. He scrolls down, looking for past employment, for references, for anything. Most of it is blank. Under previous job experience, it just says self-employed. No culinary school, no certifications, no 5-star restaurants, nothing. On paper, Caleb March is exactly what he appears to be, a janitor. Preston almost gives up. Then he sees a small, flagged note at the bottom of the digital file, an attachment from the initial background check, a standard procedure for all employees. It's a link to a series of old news articles from a small town in Northern California. The headline is from 5 years ago. Preston clicks the link. His eyes scan the first few paragraphs. A photo loads on the screen. A younger-looking Caleb, his face hollowed by grief, standing in front of the blackened, smoking ruins of a building. The headline reads, "Local chef investigated after fatal fire destroys acclaimed restaurant." Preston leans back in the chair, a slow, cruel smile spreading across his face. He doesn't need to read any more. He has it. He has the weapon that will destroy the janitor once and for all. The dessert plates are cleared. A round of applause, soft but sincere, ripples across the table. Jean-Luc Dubois raises his glass of dessert wine to Mila. "Mila, my dear," he says, his voice warm with satisfaction. "I have eaten at every 3-star restaurant on the continent. What your chef did tonight. It was not just cooking. It was poetry. The audacity, the soul. It is exactly the vision we are looking for." Isabel, the other lead investor, smiles. "The deal is yours, Mila. We will have our lawyers draw up the preliminary contracts in the morning. On one condition." Mila's heart soars. "Anything," she says, her voice glowing with triumph. "We must meet this poet," Jean-Luc insists. "A man who cooks like this should not be hidden away." Mila's smile freezes for a fraction of a second. She opens her mouth to invent an excuse, that her chef is notoriously shy, that he has a policy of never leaving the kitchen, when a side door opens. Preston Hayes walks in. His face is a mask of grave concern. He walks directly to the table, ignoring the startled looks from the investors. "Madame Laurent," he says, his voice low and urgent. "Forgive the interruption, but I have a matter of extreme urgency to discuss with you. It concerns the personnel in the kitchen tonight." Mila glares at him. "Preston, this is not the time." "I'm afraid it is," he insists, his eyes flicking towards the investors. He's intentionally putting on a show. "It is a matter of security, perhaps even safety." Jean-Luc raises an eyebrow. "Is there a problem?" Preston takes a deep breath, playing his part to perfection. "Sir, Madame Laurent, I have just discovered some deeply disturbing information about the man who prepared your meal. I ran a background check." "You did what?" Mila hisses. "And I feel it is my duty to inform you that he is not a chef." Preston barrels on, his voice filled with false regret. "He is a janitor, and 5 years ago, he was the primary suspect in a police investigation into a fatal restaurant fire." The air is sucked out of the room. The investors stare, mouths agape. Jean-Luc's celebratory expression has vanished, replaced by a cold, hard mask. "A fire," Isabel whispers, horrified. "You mean arson?" "The case was never officially solved," Preston says, twisting the knife. "But he was the owner. His name is Caleb March. It's all in the public record. We had a man being investigated for a fatal fire cooking in our kitchen tonight. Mila feels the blood drain from her face. The $50 million deal, the triumph, the future of her company. It's all turning to ash in her mouth. She looks at Jean-Luc, whose eyes are now filled with suspicion and distrust. He isn't just questioning her judgment. He's questioning her stability. "I can assure you," she starts, but her voice is weak. How can she assure them of anything? She doesn't know this man. She bet her empire on a ghost, and his past has just come back to haunt them all. At that exact moment, the main kitchen doors swing open. Caleb steps out. He has taken off the apron. He's back in his simple gray janitor's uniform, holding his worn-out jacket. He finished his work. He oversaw the final cleanup, thanked Antoine and the line cooks, and was heading for the exit. His thoughts were on Lyra, on telling her that for the first time in a long time, everything was going to be okay. He stops dead in the doorway of the main dining room. He sees the investors staring at him, their faces a mixture of shock and fear. He sees Preston, a triumphant, venomous smirk on his lips. And he sees Mila, her face pale, her eyes wide with a horrified, helpless expression as she looks at him. He doesn't have to hear the words. He can feel them. He knows exactly what just happened. His greatest success and his deepest tragedy have just collided in the worst possible way. For a long moment, nobody moves. The air is thick with accusation. Caleb stands in the doorway, the weight of every eye in the room pressing down on him. He looks at Preston's smug, triumphant face, and a wave of exhaustion, so profound it almost buckles his knees, washes over him. He's run from this story for 5 years. And here it is, cornering him in the one place he thought he could finally start again. His gaze shifts to Mila. He sees the panic in her eyes, the frantic calculation as her dream crumbles around her. He expects her to point to the door, to disown him, to do whatever it takes to save her deal. It's what anyone would do. Mila feels the investor's stares, cold and judging. Her $50 million future is evaporating. Preston has handed her an easy way out. Paint the janitor as a dangerous liability, apologize profusely, and maybe, just maybe, salvage the relationship. It's the smart business move. But as she looks at Caleb, standing alone in his worn gray uniform, she doesn't see a threat. She sees the man who created a masterpiece out of thin air. She sees the quiet dignity with which he stood in her office and demanded a future for his daughter. She sees the ghost of a tragedy in his eyes, not malice. Her decision isn't a calculation. It's an instinct. "Preston," she says, her voice dangerously quiet. "You're out of line. Mila, they need to know who was—" "I said," she cuts him off, her voice ringing with sudden, fierce authority. "That's enough." Jean-Luc Dubois holds up a hand, silencing them both. He turns his chair slightly to face the man in the doorway. He studies Caleb, his experienced eyes taking in the worn-out look, the calloused hands, and the profound stillness. "Monsieur Marsh," Jean-Luc says, his voice neutral. "A simple question. Is what this man says true? Were you investigated in connection with a fatal fire?" Every person at the table leans forward. Caleb's eyes meet the investors'. He doesn't look away. "Yes," he says, his voice raspy but clear. "There was a fire. It was my restaurant. The farmer's table. My home was on the second floor." He pauses, and the air grows heavy with unspoken tragedy. "My wife was asleep upstairs." Caleb continues, his voice flat, stripped of all emotion. "She didn't make it out. The fire department ruled the cause as faulty wiring in the old building, but our insurance company refused to pay. They kept the investigation open for 2 years, hoping to find a reason not to. They never did. But by then, I'd lost everything anyway." He stops. He doesn't offer details. He doesn't ask for sympathy. He just delivers the facts, and their brutal simplicity is more powerful than any plea. The room is utterly still. Preston's accusation, which seconds ago seemed so damning, now just hangs in the air. revealed for what it is, a cheap, cruel piece of gossip. He looks small and pathetic. Isabel, the female investor, brings a hand to her mouth, her eyes filled with horror and compassion. Jean-Luc's hard expression softens into one of deep, human regret. Mila feels a surge of white-hot fury. She turns to Preston, and her voice is no longer quiet. It's a blade. "Preston, you're fired. Your credentials will be deactivated by the time you reach the lobby. Get out of my restaurant, now." Preston stammers, his face draining of all color. "Mila, I was just trying to protect the—" "Out!" she commands. Security guards, who had been lingering nearby, step forward. Preston, defeated and humiliated, turns and is escorted from the room. Mila straightens her jacket, her hands trembling slightly. She turns back to the investors. She doesn't apologize. She doesn't make excuses. "Gentlemen, madame," she says, her voice steady. "What you have just seen is a test, not of Mr. March, but of us, of this company. We value talent, we value integrity, and we value people. My offer to you stands, but I will understand completely if you feel our priorities do not align with yours." She has just called their bluff. She has put her entire dream on the line for her janitor. Jean-Luc looks from Mila's defiant face to Caleb, who is still standing in the doorway, a pillar of quiet dignity in the face of his resurrected pain. He picks up the contract folder that his assistant had placed on the table. He taps it once on the white linen tablecloth. He looks at Mila and gives a slow, deliberate nod. "Madame Laurent," he says, "your priorities align with ours perfectly. We are not just investing in a restaurant. We are investing in a vision, and your vision is very clear." The relief in the room is so thick, Mila can almost taste it. Jean-Luc and his team rise, their smiles genuine. Jean-Luc shakes Mila's hand firmly. "We will be in touch tomorrow, Mila," he says. As he passes Caleb on his way out, he pauses. He places a hand briefly on Caleb's shoulder. "Monsieur March," he says, his voice soft with respect. "Your wife would have been very proud." Caleb can only nod, his throat too tight to speak. The investors leave. The heavy dining room doors swing shut, leaving Mila and Caleb alone in the cavernous, silent space. The table is a landscape of their chaotic evening. Empty glasses, discarded napkins, the signed folder containing the future of her company. Mila looks at Caleb. He's just a man in a gray uniform, looking tired and out of place amidst the fine linen and crystal. But he's the man who just saved her, then nearly broke her, then saved her again. "Mr. March," she starts, her voice formal. "Caleb, I'm so sorry for what Preston did. That was unforgivable." Caleb gives a slight shrug, his eyes on the floor. "He found a weapon and he used it. Some people are like that." "Not in my company," Mila says, her voice hard. "Not anymore." An awkward silence hangs between them. They are strangers, bound together by a secret, the CEO and the janitor. But the lines are blurred now, the power dynamic shattered and reformed into something new and uncertain. "We should talk about your future here," Mila says, gesturing vaguely at the room. Caleb finally looks up, his eyes meeting hers. They are clear and direct. "We made a deal," he says, his voice steady. "My daughter's bills, you said tonight." Mila is taken aback for a second. He's not asking about a promotion or a raise. He's holding her to her word. He's testing her. She understands. A promise from a person in her world can be a fragile thing. "You're right," she says. She walks over to a small service table and picks up her laptop. She places it on the dining table and opens it. "What's the name of the hospital? And who do I make the payment to?" Caleb watches her, a hint of suspicion in his eyes. He gives her the information for the pediatric specialty ward at City General. He tells her the outstanding amount, a number so large it makes her stomach clench. It's a mountain of debt that would have crushed him for the rest of his life. Mila doesn't flinch. Her fingers fly across the keyboard. She logs into her company's primary financial account, bypasses a series of security alerts, and initiates a direct wire transfer. The screen asks for a reason for the transfer. She types, "C. March, signing bonus." She turns the laptop around so he can see it. Transaction ID number is there. It's instant. It's done. Caleb stares at the screen, at the words, "Payment confirmed." He reads the number over and over again. Years of stress, of sleepless nights, of whispered conversations with doctors and billing agents, all wiped away with a few keystrokes. He slowly sinks into one of the plush dining chairs, his face pale. He looks up at her, and for the first time, she sees the crushing weight lift from his shoulders. "Thank you," he whispers, the words thick with emotion. Mela closes the laptop. "That was for tonight's work," she says, her tone shifting back to business. "Now, we need to talk about tomorrow." She sits down opposite him. "I have a $50 million partnership that is explicitly based on the genius of a chef I don't have. My actual head chef will be out for months, if he even decides to come back. You see my problem." Caleb looks down at his hands. "I'm not a chef, not anymore. What I saw in the kitchen tonight says otherwise," Mila counters. "I'm offering you the job. Head chef of Aura. Name your salary." He shakes his head slowly. "You don't understand. That part of my life, it ended in that fire. Everything I ever loved about cooking is tied up in what I lost." "Is it?" Mila leans forward, her gaze intense. "Or is cooking the one thing that can give your daughter the future she deserves? A future with a father who isn't a ghost. You didn't just cook for me tonight, Caleb. You came alive. I saw it." He says nothing, the conflict churning in his eyes. "Don't answer now," Mila says, standing up. She knows she's pushed enough. "Go home. Be with your daughter, but be back here tomorrow morning, 9 o'clock, my office. We'll talk then." She turns and walks away, leaving him alone at the table in the center of the silent, empty restaurant. He is no longer the janitor, but he doesn't know what he is. She has given him a lifeline, but it feels like it's tied to a ghost. The hospital smells of antiseptic and quiet despair. Caleb finds Lyra's room at the end of the dim corridor. She's sitting up in bed, a book on her lap, awake in a small circle of light. She's small for her 10 years, but her eyes are bright, and they light up when she sees him. "Daddy," she whispers. He kisses her forehead. "Hey, sweetie, why are you still awake?" "Couldn't sleep," she says. "Did you have a long night?" She gestures to his uniform, which smells faintly of the kitchen. "It was different," he says, sitting on the edge of her bed and taking her small hand. "Lyra," he starts, his voice thick. "The hospital bills, we don't have to worry about them anymore. They're all paid." Lyra stares at him, her eyes wide. A slow, rare smile spreads across her face. "Really? Really?" he confirms, his eyes burning. "My boss? She helped. It's all taken care of." A wave of relief washes over her. "So, Doctor, Evans will do the new treatment?" she asks, her voice hopeful. "Whatever you need," Caleb says, squeezing her hand. She leans her head against his arm. "How?" she asks quietly. "Something like that," he hedges. She looks up at him, her gaze perceptive. "You seem different, Daddy. Not so gray." The word hangs in the air. For years, he's been a ghost of himself. "You know what I miss?" Lyra says, her voice barely a whisper. "I miss your pancakes." It's a gut punch, a simple memory that feels like a judgment. He thought he was protecting himself from the memories of cooking, but he sees now he was starving his daughter of more than just food. He leaves as the sun rises, Lyra's words echoing in his head. At 8:55 a.m., he's standing across the street from the shimmering glass tower that houses Aura. He's in clean slacks and an ironed shirt, feeling like an imposter. Every instinct tells him to run, that cooking in that kitchen again is a betrayal of his past. But then he thinks of Lyra's smile and the word gray. He pulls out his cracked phone and looks at a picture of her, age 5, beaming with a smear of chocolate on her cheek. This isn't about the past anymore. It's about her future. Inside her office, Mila stares at the signed folder from Jean-Luc Dubois. It feels like a time bomb, contingent on the man she barely knows. She glances at the clock. 8:59. At exactly 9 a.m., there is a firm knock on her door. "Madame Laurent, a Mr. Caleb March is here to see you." Mila takes a deep breath. "Send him in." The door opens. Caleb steps inside. His jaw is set. His eyes are clear. He has made a decision. He looks her straight in the eye, a partner ready to state his terms. "Come in, Caleb," Mila says, gesturing to a chair. "Close the door." He does. The office is sealed in a quiet hush. The power dynamic from the night before is gone, replaced by something more level. "I assume you've thought about my offer," Mila begins. "I have," Caleb says. "Good." She slides a folder across the desk. "This is a standard executive contract. The salary for head chef is $300,000 a year, plus performance bonuses and full health coverage for you and your daughter. It's a life-changing amount of money." The old Caleb would have wept with gratitude. He doesn't open the folder. "I have my own terms," he says quietly. Mila leans back intrigued. "I'm listening." "First," Caleb says, his voice steady. "Lyra comes first, always. My hours have to be flexible. If she needs me, I'm gone. No questions, no arguments. That is non-negotiable." "Agreed," Mila says instantly. She understands. "Second," he continues, "the menu at Aura becomes mine, full creative control. The food has to have my voice." Mila hesitates for a second. It's a massive risk. But she remembers the taste of that scallop. It wasn't her old chef's voice. It was better. "Agreed," she says again. "And third," Caleb says, "I want the small staff kitchen downstairs. I want it restocked with my ingredients, my equipment. It will be my private space." Mila frowns. "For what?" "Testing dishes." "No," Caleb says, meeting her gaze. "It's for Lyra. I'm going to cook every meal she eats from now on, and I'm going to do it here." Of all the things he could have asked for, this is the one that truly surprises her. He isn't asking for more money or a fancier title. He's asking for a tool to heal his daughter. She realizes then that his genius isn't in spite of his pain. It's forged from it. To get the chef, she has to accept the father. "Done," Mila says, a small smile on her lips. She pushes the contract aside. "We'll have my lawyers draft a new agreement with your terms. Welcome to the company, chef." She stands and extends her hand. He shakes it, his grip firm. It's a deal, an alliance. "Now," Mila says, her tone shifting, "let's go introduce you to your new team." The main kitchen is already a hive of activity. Mila pushes through the doors with Caleb a step behind her. Every head turns. Conversations stop. They see Caleb in street clothes beside the CEO and exchange confused glances. "Everyone, your attention please." Mila's voice cuts through the clatter. The staff gathers around, their faces a mixture of curiosity and apprehension. "As you know, Chef Dubois is on extended medical leave," Mila announces. "Last night, one person stepped up and delivered a miracle." She gestures towards Caleb. "Effective immediately. I am promoting him. Everyone, I would like you to meet your new head chef, Caleb March." Dead silence. The staff stares, their faces frozen in a collective state of shock. They see the man who used to empty their trash cans. Antoine's face, which had been filled with respect the night before, is now a mask of disbelief and betrayal. The silence is heavy, sharp with disbelief. Antoine is the first to find his voice. "Madame Laurent," he says, stepping forward, his outrage clear. "With all due respect, this is insane. He's a janitor. He had one good night, a miracle, but that doesn't make him a chef. We worked our entire lives for this." A young cook named Marco chimes in. "We went to culinary school." Mila raises a hand, cutting them off. His title is Chef March, she says, her voice like steel. He has my complete confidence. You will give him your complete respect. If any of you has a problem with that, my office is upstairs. Feel free to bring me your resignation, otherwise get back to work. She doesn't wait for a reply. She gives Caleb a single nod, turns, and walks out, leaving him in the lion's den. A dozen hostile, resentful eyes are fixed on him. Caleb knows he can't win them with speeches, only with the work. He walks slowly past their prep stations, his eyes scanning their work. He stops at Antoine's station. The sous chef is dicing vegetables, his knife strokes angry. Your mirepoix is uneven, Caleb says, his voice quiet but carrying. The carrots are too large. They'll make the stock sweet. Do it again, 1/4-inch dice. Antoine glares at him. This is how Chef Dubois taught me. And his stocks were always good, but never great, Caleb replies calmly. He picks up a spare knife and a carrot. His hand becomes a blur. In seconds, a pile of perfectly identical, jewel-like cubes sits on the cutting board. Like this. Antoine stares at the perfect dice, his mouth tight with resentment and shock. He says nothing, but he sweeps his own clumsy vegetables into the compost bin and starts again. Caleb moves down the line, his observations sharp and undeniably correct. He points out a sauce about to break, a pan that is too hot. Finally, he reaches the specials board and wipes off the main special, coq au vin, Chef Dubois' signature. We're not making that tonight, Caleb announces. It's summer, too heavy. We're doing a pan-seared halibut with a corn and chorizo succotash. He turns to the stunned team. I need corn off the cob, fresh, small dice on the chorizo, shallots, cilantro, limes. We're building this from scratch. Now! For a long second, no one moves. They are suspended between the ghost of their old chef and the reality of the new one. Then, slowly, grudgingly, a cook breaks away and heads for the walk-in. Then another. They don't speak, but they obey. The kitchen begins to move again with a new, tense energy. Caleb stands at the pass, watching them. The first quiet shot has been fired. And he has won. The first week is a cold war fought over hot stoves. The kitchen staff calls him chef, but the word is an arrow. They execute his orders perfectly, waiting for him to fail. But Caleb doesn't fail. His standards are relentless, his palate unforgiving. The food that leaves his kitchen is flawless. Aura becomes the most talked about restaurant in the city, but inside the kitchen, the silence is deafening. Caleb finds his refuge downstairs in the small, forgotten staff kitchen. This room is not Aura. It's a sanctuary. Here, he doesn't create foams or reductions. He makes bone broth and silky vegetable soups for Lyra. He is not trying to impress. He is trying to heal. Every dish is a prayer. One afternoon, Mila is doing an inspection and hears the whir of a blender from the staff kitchen. She pushes the door open a crack and peers inside. She sees Caleb, his chef's whites on, carefully pouring a vibrant carrot and ginger soup into a thermos. His movements are gentle, tender. The intense, commanding figure from the main kitchen is gone. In his place is a father, his face etched with a quiet, desperate hope. Mila backs away silently, her throat tight. She finally understands. The genius Jean-Luc saw doesn't come from ambition or training. It comes from a love so fierce it can turn a simple soup into a lifeline. The next day, a small, state-of-the-art hydroponic herb garden is delivered to Caleb's private kitchen, filled with lemon balm and ginger. There's no note, but Caleb knows who it's from. Upstairs, the Cold War begins to thaw. During a hectic service, Marco, the young fish cook, is struggling to create the paper-thin potato scales for Caleb's signature sea bass. I can't do it, chef, he says in frustration. It's impossible. Caleb walks over. He doesn't scold. He places his hands over Marco's, guiding his fingers on the mandolin. You're forcing it, Caleb says, his voice low. Let the blade do the work. Together their hands move. and a perfect translucent slice peels off. Marco's frustration melts into an amazed smile. Antoine, watching from across the kitchen, sees the exchange. For the first time, his resentment wavers, replaced by a grudging respect. This isn't just a cook. This is a teacher. The moment is broken by the sharp ring of the kitchen telephone. A line cook answers it. "Chef March," he calls out, his face pale. "It's the hospital. For you." Caleb freezes, a pan still in his hand. The entire kitchen goes silent. He takes the phone, his heart pounding. This is Caleb. He listens. The color drains from his face. "I'm on my way," he says, his voice strained. He hangs up and looks at Antoine, his eyes filled with a raw, terrifying panic. "It's Lyra," he says, his voice breaking. "She's had a setback. I have to go." He rips off his apron and throws it on the counter. The first and most important term of his contract is now in effect, in the middle of a packed Saturday night service. For a second, the kitchen is paralyzed. The head chef is gone. The ticket machine spits out a long, mocking ribbon of orders. This is how a restaurant dies. All eyes fall on Antoine. He could let it all burn, proving Mila wrong. But he thinks of the raw panic in Caleb's eyes. It's Lyra, a father's worst nightmare. Something shifts inside him. This is bigger than him. "Move!" Antoine's voice cracks through the paralysis like a whip. He grabs Caleb's abandoned apron and ties it around his waist, stepping up to the pass. "He left us the map, people," he barks, pointing to Caleb's detailed prep notes. "Now follow it!" The kitchen explodes into a frenzy of controlled chaos. It's not graceful like it is with Caleb. It's loud and messy, but it's working. They are holding the line. The doors swing open and Mila storms in, expecting a meltdown. Instead, she finds a war room. She sees Antoine at the pass, grim with concentration, calling out orders. She sees a team that was once divided now fighting together, covering for the leader they claim to despise. They aren't just saving the service. They are protecting him. She stays by the door, a sense of awe washing over her. An hour later, the final dessert plate goes out. The staff leans against their stations, exhausted but buzzing with a strange, fierce pride. Mila walks over to Antoine. "Thank you," she says quietly. He doesn't look up, just shrugs. His daughter needed him. He finally stops and looks at her, a new, hard-earned respect in his eyes. And besides, it's a hell of a menu. It would have been a crime to screw it up. The scene shifts to the sterile, unnerving quiet of a hospital room. Caleb sits in a hard plastic chair next to Lyra's bed. A doctor stands at the foot, looking at a chart. "It was a febrile seizure," the doctor says in a low voice. "A reaction to the new medication. We've stabilized her, but her temperature is still dangerously high. The next 12 hours are critical." Caleb doesn't take his eyes off his daughter's face. He reaches out and gently brushes a strand of hair from her forehead. The victory at the restaurant, the respect he was beginning to earn. It all feels like a distant, meaningless dream. This is the only world that is real. The beeping of the heart monitor is the only clock in the room. Caleb sits hunched in the chair, not moving for hours. The guilt is a cold, heavy stone in his gut. What if the stress of his new life had made her sick? He is so lost in his fear that he doesn't hear the soft footsteps in the hallway. "Caleb?" He looks up, startled. Mila Laurent is standing in the doorway. She's not in her sharp CEO blazer, but a simple dark sweater. She holds 2 large paper cups of coffee. "I thought you might need this," she says quietly, handing him a cup. It's real, dark roast coffee. "My restaurant survived," she says, sitting in the other visitor's chair. "I came to see if my chef was doing the same." She glances at Lyra, sleeping in the bed, her expression soft with a compassion he has never seen before. "She's beautiful," Mila whispers. "She looks just like her mother," Caleb says, the words coming out before he can stop them. "Her mom. She was the one with the real talent. She could make anything grow." Said you can't cook a story if you don't know where the words come from. Mila is quiet for a long moment. My father thinks emotion is a liability in business, she says, her voice low. He told me I would have to sacrifice everything. For years I believed him. Tonight, when you ran out of that kitchen, my first thought was, he's not committed. He's a weakness. Caleb flinches, the words confirming his deepest fears. But then, Mila continues, I saw what happened. I saw Antoine and the others. They didn't just keep the restaurant running, they fought for you. My father was wrong. It turns out, emotion isn't the liability. It's the asset. You've given my kitchen a heart, Caleb, and tonight it started beating on its own. Her words hang in the sterile air, a stunning, unexpected gift. He had been so worried about letting them down, he never considered they might hold him up. As the first gray light of dawn filters through the window, a nurse comes in with a real, warm smile. Her fever broke about an hour ago, she says gently. The worst is over. She's a little fighter. The relief that floods through Caleb is so powerful it makes him dizzy. He sags back in his chair, a choked sob escaping his lips as he covers his face with his hands. Mila doesn't say anything. She just places a hand on his shoulder, a simple, solid gesture of support. As the sun begins to rise, Mila stands to leave. The kitchen can manage for a few days, she says. Stay with her. Thank you, Mila, Caleb says, his voice clear. For everything. He sits by Lyra's bed, holding her hand as she sleeps peacefully. He feels a new strength settling in his bones. He isn't choosing between two worlds anymore. He's building a bridge between them. His phone buzzes. It's a text from Antoine. Kitchen is prepped for lunch service, chef. We've got it covered. Take your time. The simple message, the use of the word chef, is a declaration. It's not a truce anymore. It's an allegiance. He has a team. And for the first time, Caleb March feels like he might just have a future. A month later, the kitchen at Aura is a different world. The cold silence has been replaced by a low hum of focused, creative energy. Lyra is home, still weak, but getting stronger every day. The dark circles under Caleb's eyes have faded, and he stands at the past not like a man haunted by ghosts, but like a general commanding a loyal army. Antoine is his trusted second, and young Marco moves with a quiet confidence. They are a brigade. Caleb's brigade. Mila sees the change on the balance sheets. Profits are up. The wait list for a reservation is 6 months long. Jean-Luc Dubois calls weekly to ask what the poet is creating now. Caleb's food has become the talk of the culinary world. It's not just perfect, it's personal. Each dish tells a story. One Tuesday morning, Mila walks into the kitchen, a rare storm cloud on her face. We have a problem, she says. Eleonora Dane just made a reservation for Friday night. A collective gasp goes through the kitchen. Eleonora Dane, the executioner, the most powerful food critic in the country. Her reviews are legendary for their brutal honesty. This is it, Caleb, Mila says, pacing. This is the real test. A good review from her, and we're untouchable. A bad one, and she could poison everything. The staff looks at Caleb, their faces pale with anxiety. Caleb just wipes his tasting spoon clean. He has watched his daughter fight for every breath. A food critic holds no terror for him. Good, he says simply. Then we'll cook her a meal. He turns to his team. Huddle up. They gather around the main prep table. Forget about her, Caleb says, his voice low and firm. We're not cooking for a critic. We're cooking for one person on one night. We're going to tell her a story. Our story. He looks at them. A collaborator. What tastes like right now? The heirloom tomatoes are perfect this week, chef, Marco says. Good. That's our first course, Caleb declares. Antoine, the scallops? The dish that started all of this. Antoine nods. We could refine it. Use a brown butter base. Give it a nuttier, deeper flavor. I love it, Caleb says. Do it. They build the menu together. Each dish is a chapter. Scallops for new beginnings, sea bass for clarity. The main course, Caleb decides, will be a tribute to Lyra. A simple, perfectly roasted chicken with herbs from his private garden. A dish that tastes of healing. A dish that tastes of home. Friday night arrives. The air in the kitchen is electric. Caleb stands at the pass, a picture of calm. The ticket machine whirs. Table 9. One person, Dane, E. Caleb tears the ticket from the machine. He clips it to the rail. "Let's begin," he says. The kitchen moves with a hushed, deadly grace. Out in the dining room, Eleonora Dane sits alone, her sharp, intelligent eyes missing nothing. The first course arrives, the heirloom tomato salad. She takes a bite. Her expression doesn't change, but her eyes widen a fraction. The flavors are explosive. It tastes of sun and soil. Back in the kitchen, the empty plate returns. "Plate's clean," Marco calls out. "It means nothing," Antoine mutters. Scallops are up next, fire table 9. The courses go out, each flawless, each met with terrifying silence. The plates come back clean, but no message is sent to the chef. The tension is so thick it feels hard to breathe. Mila stands by the service door, twisting a napkin in her hands. "Main course, table 9, Caleb says, his voice low. This is the one. The simple roasted chicken, a piece of his heart on a plate. Eleonora Dane stares at the chicken. It looks ordinary. She cuts a small piece and puts it in her mouth. For the first time all night, she stops being a critic. It's the most perfect chicken she has ever tasted. But underneath that, it tastes of care, of home. It reminds her with a sudden sharp pang of her own grandmother's cooking. She puts her fork down, her carefully constructed facade momentarily forgotten. She finishes the meal, pays in cash, and leaves without a word. The kitchen staff waits, their adrenaline turning into a slow, heavy dread. 2 days later, the staff is gathered around a single laptop. The review is scheduled to be published at noon. The clock ticks to 12 o'clock. Antoine refreshes the web page. The article appears. They all lean in, hearts pounding. Aura's new chef isn't cooking, he's praying, and we should all be listening. A stunned silence, then a collective, shaky exhale. Antoine reads the first paragraph aloud, his voice trembling. I did not go to Aura to have a religious experience. I went to judge a meal. But somewhere between a tomato salad that tasted of pure sunlight and a simple roasted chicken that tasted of unconditional love, I realized they are sometimes the same thing. Caleb March is not the restaurant world's newest celebrity chef. He is something far rarer, an artist who has bled onto the plate, and in doing so has created something not just delicious, but holy. Marco lets out a whoop of pure joy. The kitchen erupts. The cooks are cheering, hugging. Antoine grabs Caleb by the shoulders, a huge, beaming smile on his face. You did it, chef, he says, his voice thick with emotion. You magnificent maniac. You did it. Amidst the chaos, Mila and Caleb share a look. Her eyes are shining. This is more than a good review. It's a coronation. The phone on the kitchen wall begins to ring. It's the New York Times. It rings again. It's Vogue. Within minutes, the online reservation system crashes. Aura is no longer a restaurant. It's a phenomenon. Later, Caleb is in his private kitchen, measuring out flour and cinnamon. He has more important work to do. He brings the freshly cooked pancakes to their small apartment. Lyra is at the table drawing. The smell of melting butter fills the air. Her face lights up. You made them, she whispers. I did, he says. He doesn't tell her about Eleanor Dane or the Times. He tells her the part that matters. It turns out, he says, watching her take a happy bite, a lot of people missed my cooking. Her small, satisfied smile is the only review he will ever truly care about. The next morning, Mila finds him in the kitchen. Jean-Luc Dubois called, she says, her voice buzzing with excitement. He was euphoric. He doesn't want to talk about one restaurant in Paris. He wants a global partnership, Laurent March Gastronomy. Restaurants in Paris, London, Tokyo. With you as the creative director of the entire enterprise. He wants to give you a world stage. Caleb stops what he's doing. He looks at Mila's radiant face. London, Tokyo, a global empire. Then he looks at the small, colorful drawing taped to his knife station. It's a picture Lyra drew of him and her, holding hands, in front of a small house with a big garden. Mila sees his gaze. "This is everything we've worked for, Caleb," she says softly. "It's the top of the mountain." He looks from the drawing to her, the two halves of his world pulling at him. He had finally found a home, and now she was asking him to conquer the world. "I need to think," Caleb says, his voice barely a whisper. "Take the weekend," Mila says, her ambition tempered by wisdom. "Talk to Lyra." That Saturday, he drives Lyra 2 hours out of the city to a small plot of land with a rundown farmhouse. They walk through the tall grass, the sun warm on their faces. "It's messy," Lyra says. "Yeah," Caleb says with a smile, "but it's got good soil. Your mom would have loved this soil. She used to say that you can't build a real home without a garden." He looks at his daughter, her face finally regaining its color. "Lyra," he says, taking a breath. "Mila. She wants me to help her open new restaurants in faraway places like Paris." Lyra looks around at the big, empty field. "Will the restaurants have gardens?" she asks. The question is so simple, so pure, it cuts right through Caleb's confusion. He's been thinking of the choice as here or there, family or career. But Lyra just sees one world. "I don't know," he says, "but maybe they should." On Monday morning, Caleb walks into Mila's office holding a rough sketch of a restaurant with a large, thriving garden. "I'll do it," he says before she can speak. "I will be the creative director, but on my terms." He slides the drawing across the desk. "This is the model. Every Laurent March restaurant will have a working garden. The menu won't just be my food. It will be a story about that place. The soul will come from the soil. I won't be a jet-setting celebrity chef. My home is here, with Lyra. I will be the heart, not the face. I'll travel when I must, but my roots stay here." Mila looks at the drawing, then back at Caleb. Her brilliant, profit-driven mind sees the genius in it. It's not just a business model. It's an ethos. It's authentic. It's the very thing Jean-Luc had called poetry. It's a vision far better than her own. "I think," she says, a slow, brilliant smile spreading across her face, "that is the best idea I have ever heard." 2 years later. The first Laurent March restaurant in Paris is a triumph, celebrated for its rooftop garden that overlooks the Seine. Back home, Aura has 3 Michelin stars, with Antoine as its confident head chef. Caleb stands in a field of thriving heirloom tomatoes, the sun warm on his back. The old farmhouse behind him has been lovingly restored. He watches as Lyra, now a healthy, vibrant 12-year-old, shows a visiting Mila the difference between a Brandywine and a Cherokee purple tomato. "Daddy says this one tastes like sunshine," Lyra explains seriously, handing a ripe tomato to Mila. Mila takes a bite, the sweet juice running down her chin. She looks at Caleb, who is smiling, a genuine, peaceful smile. They are not just partners anymore. They are family. He has everything he ever wanted. He is not a global icon, but something far better. He is a father, a teacher, a man who, after losing everything, learned to plant a new garden. Thank you for staying with this story until the very end. Every story has a character or a moment that pulls you in. I'd be honored to hear which part resonated most deeply with you, or maybe a time you felt something similar, and please say hello and let us know what part of the world you're in. It makes this big world feel a little smaller and a little warmer, knowing we're all sharing this moment. I believe that sharing and listening to stories is one of the most powerful things we can do. It's a reminder that no one is truly alone. If these are the kinds of stories that feed your soul, think about hitting subscribe. It's not just a button. It's you saying you want to keep this conversation going. Your presence here makes all of this worthwhile. Seriously. Until next time, walk gently and carry a good story with you.